Hi, welcome back to Finding Better. My name is John Suzuki and I am your host. Finding Better is a place where we share experiences, real life experiences of people who have been there and done that on any number of things. And the idea is to share those experiences so that you can learn from them and perhaps consider applying them to your own lives. They're not opinions, they are not theories, they certainly are not academics. It's all about actual experiences of people who have been there and done that. And so today I've been asked by several people to talk about my book. If you're looking at me through my YouTube channel called Finding Better Podcast, you can see my book. It's called American Grit: From a Japanese American Concentration Camp Rises an American War Hero. Um, Now, this it took me 15 years to write this book, and I published it finally last year in May. And the book is about a man. His name is Shiro Kashino, and his nickname is Cash. And it's a story about the experience of the American concentration camps during World War II, where where a bunch of people of Japanese ancestry were incarcerated for no other reason than their race. And it really is about resilience and grit. But the bottom line is that American Grit, the book, is all about finding better. And so I want to take you through some of the main points of the book. And again, I'm not selling you a book. I'm telling you about the book so you don't have to buy the book. But if you want to buy the book, that's up to you. And so the broader message in the book is about victimhood versus self-empowerment. Okay. And so let's just get into it and you'll kind of understand what I mean by that. But let me just make one more quick comment. It seems to me that the world of victimhood, I mean, the rise of victimhood lately has been just astonishing. There's blame going around everywhere. Everybody's blaming somebody else or something else for everything going on in their lives, it seems like. And when you blame something or somebody for your circumstances, it leads to victimhood. And so my hope is that this book and this message will kind of inspire you to empower yourself. Now, what's the book about? It's about a guy named Shiro Kashino. His nickname is Cash. And it's about the concentration camps during World War II, where people of Japanese ancestry in the United States, 120,000 of them, were incarcerated in concentration camps for no other reason than their race. And it really is about resilience and grit during that time of our history. When Japan attacked Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, it thrust the United States into World War II. What it also did was it caused a big part of the population to view anyone of Japanese ancestry of being a spy for the Emperor of Japan. And so the president of the United States at that time, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, famously issued or infamously issued Executive Order 9066. And what that did was that authorized the United States government to round up and incarcerate 120,000 people of Japanese ancestry on the west coast of the United States, including 50,000 children and babies. Can you imagine that? So imagine one day you're having a great day, you're minding your own business, and then you learn that the country of your ancestry does something so egregious against the United States that the government authorizes you, your family, your kids, your parents to be rounded up and placed in a concentration camp. And these concentration camps were out in the middle of nowhere where there were no people. Temperatures were um, at zero, below zero to above 100 degrees. Your home was a shack made of lumber and tar paper. There was no plumbing. The toilets basically amounted to holes in the ground. And you didn't know what your future held. You didn't know if you were going to be shot or executed. And you were surrounded by barbed wire fences and American soldiers pointing their guns at you. And your families and you've lost everything. The only thing you could take with you was two suitcases of your stuff. I mean, can you imagine that? That actually happened again to 120,000 people, including 50,000 children and babies. And so here you are in this concentration camp, Now, very easy to blame the government, to blame other people for your circumstances. Very easy and very understandable to consider to be a victim of those circumstances. And a lot of people did feel like victims. A lot of people did blame other people for those circumstances. But there were a whole bunch of other people who decided not to focus on blame and empower themselves to make their circumstances better. They took accountability for their own lives. Crazy, but true. So farmers who were farmers before the war, they grew crops for food in the camps. Teachers who were teachers before the war made schools, and doctors before the war made hospitals and doctors' offices, and cooks and restaurant owners became the cooks and restaurant owners or not restaurant, but cooks in the camps. And so everybody pitched in. Everybody did what they could to make their circumstances better. Now, there was another group of people, including Shiro Kishino, who decided to take it a little bit further because he viewed life in a concentration camp as something that he did not want to live through for the rest of his life. And so he and several thousand others decided to find a way to prove their loyalty to the United States, to prove that Japanese Americans were as deserving to be Americans as anybody else. And so they volunteered out of the concentration camps to join and fight for, and in some cases die for, the United States Army. And can you imagine that? You're living in a concentration camp guarded by American soldiers, and the United States Army comes to the concentration camp asking you to volunteer to fight and die for the United States Army that put you and your family in those camps to begin with. And not only that, but it was the same United States Army that would keep your family imprisoned in those camps while you went off to war. And tragically, one of the things that happens when a soldier dies is that their parents are presented an American flag and a gold star by a contingent of American soldiers who come to your home. So imagine one of your sons dies and you are presented with an American flag and a gold star while you are living in a concentration camp. It happened hundreds of times. And so, so Shero and these men from the camps went on to join a segregated war unit called the 442nd Regimental Combat Team. And this was a combat team made up of Japanese Americans. And they went through training and they went off to Europe to fight against the Germans. There were two very, very celebrated battles. And in fact, as I was studying this, and what happened, the way that I got this story was one day I found myself on a bus to Twin Falls, Idaho, to participate in a pilgrimage to visit a former concentration camp in Idaho called Minidoka. Had no idea why I was on this bus, but I knew through a series of events that I had to be there. And so during the bus ride, everybody on the bus spoke about why they were going, and everybody was going because they had family or friends that had experienced or were in those camps or in that camp. When they got to me, I told everybody, I said, I don't know why I'm here. My mom was in Japan during World War II, and my dad was in the Army during World War II. And so I don't know why I'm here, but I have a feeling I will know the reason why I'm here on the bus trip home. So on the first 2 days, we toured the camp and we spoke with survivors. It was just unbelievable. It was wonderful. On the third day, I discovered a billboard, and this billboard listed the names of all the men who volunteered out of the Minidoka concentration camp to fight and die for the United States Army. And I said, are you kidding me? Who in the world would do such a thing? I knew a lot about the camps. I knew a lot about the 442nd. I did not know about the men who volunteered out of the camps to fight for the United States Army. And these men and the 442nd went on to become the most decorated war unit in the history of the United States for its size and duration. Unbelievable. So I want to tell you about two major battles because when I wrote this book, I wanted to find somebody who participated and fought in these two battles, and that's how I came across Shiro Kishino. The first battle was called the Battle of the Lost Battalion, and this was a battle in a forest in France where 211 men had gotten surrounded by the Germans and were doomed literally to certain death. Two units of American soldiers, or Americans tried twice to rescue these guys, and they failed. So they called in the 442nd. Just to get to the net of it, the 442nd did rescue this lost battalion called the Alamo Regiment or Alamo Battalion. And in the process of saving 211 men, the 442nd lost over 800 men. But they did it, and they saved these guys. And it became one of the top 10 most celebrated victories, battle victories in the history of the United States military. And then they went on to Italy to fight in a battle called the Battle of the Gothic Line. This battle was held in the Apennine mountain range that spanned all the way across Italy, west to east. And this mountain range stood in the way of the Allies to get through to Germany. And they had to get through this mountain range. The problem was that the Germans held the mountaintops of this mountain range. And at no time, never in military history, had anyone displaced the army that held the tops of the Gothic line. And so they had to get through. And the Fifth Army of the United States, which made up about 200,000 people, had taken 6 months, and they were not able to break through. So they called in the 442nd. The 442nd proposed a battle plan that would win the top of the Gothic line in 48 hours. Everybody thought they were crazy. But what happened was that instead of fighting up the front side of the mountains, the 442nd proposed climbing the back side of the mountain, which was literally a 3,000-foot cliff. And with the expectation that the Germans were not guarding the backside, the cliff side of the Gothic line. So they spent 2 nights in complete silence marching towards the Gothic line. And when they made the climb, the 3,000, imagine climbing a 3,000-foot cliff with full battle gear. You don't have you have combat boots, for crying out loud, and you're not a trained mountain climber. But anyway, they were told that if they fell, they were not to make a sound. They were not to scream, because anything that would alert the Germans would mean 5,000 Japanese American men dead at the bottom of a mountain. And so a number of men did fall, and they fell in silence. Finally, by daybreak, they had made it to the top of the Gothic line, and they found that the Germans were not, in fact, guarding that side of the mountain. And so when the order was issued, they surprised the Germans, and they took over the top of the Gothic line in 8 hours. What the entire Fifth Army couldn't do in 6 months, the 442nd accomplished in 8 hours. And so incredible battle record, war record. And Shiro Kishino ended up being awarded 6 Purple Hearts. Now, what's a Purple Heart? You get a Purple Heart every time you are injured. You're shot or you're blown up. Now, if you are blown up 3 times at once, that's one Purple Heart. Or if you're shot 4 times at the same time, that's 1 Purple Heart. Shiro Kishino was awarded 6 separate Purple Hearts. Unbelievable. And a Silver Star and a Bronze Star and a whole host of other medals and awards. He became one of the most decorated American soldiers of World War II. And he started his career in the military from a concentration camp that he was put into by the United States Army. Unbelievable story. And so, the story goes on, and, the war was over. Everybody started going home. unfortunately, where they were viewed as the enemy during the war, it got kind of worse in some cases at the end of the war because now they were the enemy that lost the war. I tell the story of Senator Daniel Inouye, who was the United States first United States senator from the state of Hawaii, and he was the United States senator for 50 years, and he also was a Medal of Honor recipient. When he came back from Europe and landed back in the United States, he went into a barber shop wearing his American uniform, missing his right arm that he lost during the Battle of the Gothic Line. And when he walked in, the barber told him to read the sign, and the sign said, "We don't cut Jap hair." Can you imagine that? And so that was the kind of experience that a lot of people went through when they got home to their. A lot of people didn't go home. They went someplace else to start a new life because they were so brokenhearted and didn't have the heart to go back home. But sentiment like that continued on for 2 or 3 decades after the war was over. And so this story is not a story to talk about to make people feel sorry for all these people that went through this experience, but it is largely to educate folks that concentration camps in America actually happened. Could they happen again? Absolutely. They all happened because President Roosevelt signed an executive order. If we get another person in power as a president of the United States, can it happen again? Of course it can happen again. And so, the idea is to mobilize and be aware that this part of history can happen, especially at a time when, the whole whitewashing of history and the cancel culture, all that kind of stuff. But folks need to know about this because it can happen again. More importantly for me, it's an inspiring story that I wanted to share because it really is a story about accountability and empowerment and taking it upon yourself to to go for it, to go for it. What, in Cheryl's case, he didn't want to live in a concentration camp anymore. He wanted to build a wonderful life in America, the American dream, and for his future family. And he went out and figured a way to do that, and he did. And so it's a story that again, I'm not going to belabor the point, but think about where you are, right? Think about your circumstances. Think about what you would do if you suddenly found yourself in a concentration camp. Would you? Because life wouldn't get much worse than that, right? But would you succumb to victimhood, or would you choose the other alternative of empowerment? Anyway, that's kind of the story. So I hope you'll like it. I hope you'll like it. I hope you'll consider it because it is all about finding better. And that's exactly what Shiro Kishino fought for. That's exactly what he and all those brave men did. And all of them, and what do I want to say? I want to say that thank you to all of you for your service who have served in the United States military. Thank you for your service. It's been a wonderful, wonderful journey learning about military life and heartbreaking as well, but unbelievably empowering and inspiring. So with that, that's it. If you like this episode, please do give us a rating or a review. And if you want more information, you can go to my website, johnsuzuki.com, and check out more information there. Okay. Until next time, thanks again. Here's to finding better. See you next time. Bye.